Hi, welcome to Holy Women Healing Wales. We invite you to join us on a sacred journey through Ireland and Wales. We interviewed 5 spiritual leaders from St. Winifred Shrine at Holywell in Wales. Sister Margaret Reddy, Minister of Hospitality at the Pilgrimage Residential Center. Reverend Terence Carr, Parish Priest at St. Winifred Shrine. Mr. David Schwartz, Lay Coordinator of the Shrine Restoration Project. Sister Seraphim Boyce, a hermit who gives talks on faith healing and miracles. Sister Lacerian Fleming, a mentor to pilgrims who visit this sacred well. St. Winifred Shrine is the only shrine in Britain that has an unbroken history of pilgrimage from the 7th century to the present day. The well chapel was built at the end of the 15th century. It is a beautiful example of perpendicular architecture. Scholars believe that this well may date back to pre-Christian times, and that the tradition of passing through the water 3 times may have its origin in the Celtic rite of baptism by triple immersion. When pilgrims emerge from the waters, they light a candle and pray before the statue of Saint Winifred. The majestic statue of Saint Winifred depicts the princess saint standing with her crozier in one hand and carrying a palm of martyrdom draped over her right shoulder in the other hand. Kings and queens have visited this sacred shrine from the Middle Ages up to recent times.
In recent years, more and more people have been drawn here. As you know, it is called the Lourdes of Wales. And I think people who cannot afford to go abroad, like to Medjugorje, Fatima and Lourdes, they make a pilgrimage here. And people love coming here, and they feel the peace at the well.
As far as we can be certain, St. Winifred certainly lived here in the 7th century. And we know that she became an abbess at the monastery of Htealing in Denbighshire, not very far from here. We know that she wasn't formally canonised, but became a saint by popular acclaim, which was really the way most of the saints of the Celtic tradition were recognised as saints. We know that she died here, and that she was buried at the monastery of Htealing, and that in the 12th century the black monks of Shrewsbury, the Benedictines, took her body from Htealing to Shrewsbury to establish it in a shrine there in her honour. So there is a tradition of pilgrimage to Holywell because of Winifred, and also to Shrewsbury. But the story goes that St. Winifred was the object of the affection of a local Celtic prince called Caradog, who lived at Harden, which is just on the English border near Chester. And St. Winifred was at her home one day in this locality. Her parents were down in the church. We don't know quite why Winifred was said to have been at home. Possibly she was ill. When Caradog arrived at the house and forced his way in and tried to force his affections upon her, to put it politely, well, Winifred is said to have resisted and to have fled the house in fear and to have run down towards the church. Well, Caradog, whether in fear or anger or frustration or possibly a combination of all 3 of those, is said to have run after her, and as they approached the church, he's said to have drawn his sword and struck Winifred on the head, beheading her. Well, the commotion brought the congregation out of the church, led by her uncle, St. Bino, who was the priest who was presiding at the Eucharist at the time. When they saw Winifred's disembodied head, they picked it up. He placed it back on her shoulders. They prayed fervently, and Winifred was raised back to life with nothing more to show for her dreadful experience than a white ring around her neck. The ground is said to have opened up and swallowed Caradoc, who was never seen again.
And at the point where her body had rested, this great stream of water gushed forth. And to give you some idea of the strength of it, it was as late as 1917 that the volume of water varied between 70 and 19 million gallons a week. The water spurted up something like 8 or 9 feet in the air. The beautiful shrine, which is a remarkable shrine, probably the finest perpendicular Gothic building of its type, with a chapel surmounting the well crypt in the whole of Europe, if not worldwide. It was built by Lady Margaret Beaufort, the Countess of Richmond, who was the mother of Henry VII, and the monks, the Cistercian monks of Basingstoke Abbey, who were charged with looking after it. Basingstoke Abbey, it was an abbey just a mile and a half downstream, where the stream, the Holywell stream, entered the River Dee. And that was built just 500 years ago. It was completed about 1505 and had been looked after ever since, firstly by the Cistercians and then by the Jesuits for some 350 years. And the pilgrimages continued at Holywell right through penal times. St. Winifred, of course, was an international saint by this time. There was great devotion to her. You've heard about Henry V from Father Carr coming to Holywell. He actually journeyed to Shrewsbury, where her bones lay, and then he walked from Shrewsbury to Holywell, some 65 miles and back, which indicated the level of devotion, albeit by a king, which is quite remarkable. The burial ground or cemetery alongside the church, which is now disused but which is still there, contains actually in the parish church the recorded names of 43,000 people buried there. And the reason for this was that people wanted to be buried near the shrine of St. Winifred.
I draw parallels between the well and the pool of Bethsaida in the Gospel, where Jesus told the paralytic to be lowered into the pool, because the well has actually got 5 arches in order to resemble this healing pool. And as you remember, the angel used to stir the waters in Bethsaida, and the first one in was healed after the angel had stirred the waters. And so here you find people are being healed. And a question I have been asked several times is, why does Winifred heal people, or how does Winifred heal people? And I would say, well, actually, St. Winifred does not heal anybody. It is only God who heals. It is only Jesus Christ who heals. And therefore Winifred was an image of Christ to the people, in bringing the healing of Christ to the people. And therefore it is only by her intercession that people are healed.
And Sister Htealing Fleming. I'm the 11th child of a family of 12. And I was considered rather delicate. However, my sister was married here in Holywell, and of course knew about St. Winifred, and she and her husband said that they wrote home and asked if my parents would consider me coming over, and that St. Winifred might do something for me. Well, I'm very happy to say I came and liked Holywell and loved the well. And I was just at the age of changing to the higher school. So they decided to keep me here. I went to school in Holywell. So I was very privileged, really. And as I have now reached the age of 92, I can't deny that St. Winifred certainly did something for me.
This family were telling me that their next door neighbour was cured at the well. And they told me that she had multiple sclerosis. She wasn't a Catholic and did not know anything about St. Winifred. But she was reading about Holywell and about it having a holy well. And a friend of hers took her here to Holywell, and she, not being a Catholic, didn't know what to say, what prayers to say. So she just said her own prayers. And while she was at the well, she got out of her wheelchair and walked. She had been told previous to that by the specialist that she'd never walk again. She went back to the specialist, and he could not believe his eyes when she walked into the room. And she has now been totally recovered.
Just recently, last year, a man who'd been diagnosed with cancer and had an enormous growth attended the consultant at our local district general hospital, and he was advised that he'd got terminal cancer, and he was given relief treatment, but continued under supervision. And it was suggested to him that he should visit the shrine at Holywell. He was a Christian, not of the Catholic faith, and came and was immediately found himself to be at great peace in the Well Crypt building, and had great succour from this, and said to his wife he must come back again. And he did this the following week, and he said he felt immeasurably better, and he came back the following week again, and then in due course, in another few weeks, he had to visit the consultant again. And he said, well, before I have a look at you, we'll just give you a scan, a routine scan, to see how things are progressing. And when the films were brought to the consultant, he said to the radiographer, these are not the right films, you brought me the wrong films. And he said, oh no, these are the correct films. Anyway, they did it again, and the trace of his cancerous growth had disappeared completely. And it was without any explanation. And the consultant wrote on its notes, cured by St. Winifred at Holywell. And he has visited and still visits the well regularly today, and has great faith.
Lolita was a very beautiful looking girl. She had all the beauty that you associate with Eastern beauties, very large, lovely eyes, olive skin, dark hair. But she suffered from agoraphobia, and she hated going out for anything. And as well as that, she also suffered from a hip inflammation. If she had to go out anywhere, she'd get terrible panic attacks and be terrified. So her husband would have to go with her when they finally did manage to go out. Eventually they came to Holywell, and she went down into the water, and she was just standing on the third step down into the water, with the water up to her waist, when she felt these cold bubbles all around her hips, rising all around her continually, as if the water had been boiling and frothing, although obviously it wasn't. It was about 53 degrees, very, very cold. And when she stepped out of the water, her pain had gone. And they went back to London and went to the doctors, and she found her agoraphobia had gone. She wasn't terrified. And her panic attacks had gone. Everything had been healed. She went to the hospital because she has to go every few weeks for treatment. And the doctors found that there was nothing at all wrong anymore. And he said, we just cannot make out what's doing this. So he took her card, and after several visits, when nothing had come back, he took her card, he just wrote on the bottom, healed by St. Winifred. So now her and her husband, they come up here from time to time. She's always full of gratitude, and she always finds that the prayerfulness in the place stimulates her and helps her on her spiritual journey.
The mother came to St. Winifred's Well with the little boy, and she was going to stay here for 3 days. And the parish priest said to her, "Oh, Mum," he said, "you've got a big family, but you go home after the first day." Now, to go back to the story, this little boy was born with a leg. I think it was dislocated or something. I don't know what was wrong with the leg, but anyway, the leg was bad. They went back, so the mother took the child back to the doctor after being at St. Winifred's. When the doctor saw the child's leg, he said, "Mum," he said, "I know you've got a big family. I think you made a mistake. You brought me the wrong child." And she said, "Oh no," she said, "no, this is Paddy," or whatever his name was. And the leg was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Father Jimmy Collins still tells that story about his mother bringing the child, his little brother, here to the well.
My first experience of anybody having a miracle at Hollywood was when I was quite young. I was coming out of the church one day, and and a gentleman came to me and he said, "Sister, could you tell me," I don't think I was a sister then, he said, "could you tell me the way to St. Winifred's Well, because I promised my mother that I'd always visit the well if I got the chance." He was living in Australia, married. So I said, "Well, I'll go down to the well with you." So I said, "Well, my wife is in the car." So I went down with him, and he chatted like you're chatting today, and we talked. So then he told me his story, why he had come back. He said that he had always promised his mother that if he had enough money to come back from Australia, that he'd come and say thank you to St. Winifred. Now the story was this. This lady had a baby, and the baby was considered incurable, had been in hospital, and had been sent home, and the mother was told to be very kind to the little fellow, that you wouldn't have him for long. Now, he said, "I'm that baby, and I've come to say thank you."
I think that the places like Holywell have a great deal to say to all generations. Holywell has been sanctified above all by the tradition of prayer, which surrounds the whole shrine. And prayer is an eternal spiritual phenomenon which we neglect at our peril. So whilst the tradition of pilgrimage to places such as Holywell may seem to be more closely associated with the older generation of our time, I think it is our responsibility to make our young people aware of the rich tradition of prayer and the rich spirituality of a place such as this, which is really quite timeless and which extends the hand of God to all generations.
Prayer to Saint Winifred. Saint Winifred, you reveal God, our healer, who kisses away the scars of physical and verbal abuse. Lead us to the Compassionate One, who heals the wounds inflicted on victims of violent assault. Saint Winifred, you reflect God, who is advocate of justice. Inspire us to make laws that protect youth from sexual exploitation for profit. Saint Winifred, you reflect the God who loves us totally and tenderly. We affirm our sexuality as holy. We affirm our bodies as beautiful images of our Creator. We affirm our oneness with God, now and forever. Saint Winifred, may our pilgrimage to Holy Well, whether we journey to its healing waters in person or as armchair pilgrims through this video, be a source of blessing that will bring us health and wholeness. O God of abundant waters, may we be aware of your presence within us and all around us. Give us the gift of your peace. May it be so. May it be so. Questions for reflection and discussion. What is the meaning of Saint Winifred's story? How can we help victims of domestic violence? How can we protect youth from sexual exploitation? If you could ask Saint Winifred one question, what would it be?